Welcome to the Brand Wise podcast, where we talk about the big branding moves that business owners are making and the why behind it. I'm your host, Jess Freeman, here to help you be wise and be bold. Very excited to be talking to my friend Holly Haynes today, and we're going to be talking about how she just repositioned and also did like a little baby rebrand of her business. So, welcome to the podcast, Holly. I would love to start with you just telling us what your brand is all about.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about this because I've never really spoken about it like publicly before. And I think for me, the positioning of our brand has always been I want women to feel confident in what they're doing and like what their next step is. So, a lot of our audience, like my background is corporate strategy. So, a lot of our audience and clients come from corporate and maybe they're like looking for a career change or they're looking to maybe do something a little bit differently. We also serve like a lot of moms and a lot of families. And so that sort of like alignment piece of I want to feel really good about what I'm doing. And I also don't want to feel rushed. But the interesting story is our logo and our like company name is called Crush the Rush, which is also our podcast. And I had this, like, epiphany, and I was like, "I don't like, do I want to be known as Crush the Rush forever?" Like, I thought of the name in the shower as, like, most, I think, entrepreneurs have this, like, idea, and they have no idea what it's gonna turn into. And so that's honestly where a little bit of our sort of rebranding idea came from because I was like, "Well, where I started 5 years ago is so different same but different than, like, where I am now, and for a minute, I was like, "Maybe I should, like, call myself something else," and then all of my, like, friends were like, "No, it's very established, don't change it." So we kind of just have maybe stepped into, like it's the same message, but it's a little bit more confident. I'm older, our brand is older. I want our clients to feel more confident, and then we've also sort of layered in this, I call it a life priorities first model. So I didn't start a business to have a team of like 100 people. Like I started a business because I want to travel and I want to have more free time and I don't want to sit in front of a computer. And so we really sort of switched up our wording to that, and that was probably a bigger change than, like, our logo and our colors. And to me, that is, like, a little bit more fun and relaxed and maybe, like, we're still very much focused on strategy, but it's just, like, I don't know, it's not perfect, right? It's, like, maybe ruffled edges instead of straight.
Yes, yes. So what was the, like, old kind of positioning and what is the new? Can you give us, like, your little
Yeah, well, it's
one-liners?
interesting. I think it's, like, evolved over time. When I first started, I positioned myself as a productivity coach. So if you go back and listen to, like, our old podcast episodes, it's very much like, "Let me help you plan your day. Let's build your business in 8 to 10 hours a week," and that was sort of, like, how we grew. And then we started positioning ourselves over the years of like, hey, I do teach strategy, but I'm also really good at helping you figure out like what your funnel it looks like and how to structure your emails and how to structure your offer suite. So it sort of went like a little more serious. And then it went to, let's build your strategy without being on social media and a little more direct. And now I think it's evolved to like we help you build a life priorities based business model, which I think is like a mix of it's direct, but also, hey, like this is a little bit different than what you might have seen. So that's kind of what we're leaning into. Like a lot of our content has been more like life focused and a little more personal. We still talk about strategy a lot, but we're sort of trying to show maybe like the softer side or like the behind the scenes side a little bit more. And so that's kind of what we've been leaning into.
Nice. I really, one, I like the transition and kind of the the evolution
Yeah.
of your messaging, but I also just wanna point out that I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't necessarily, like, start a new podcast each time, and
No.
you didn't you just kind of kept going, and while I
Yeah.
do think there are times for, like, "Hey, this is a totally different niche or market or service or whatever, and so, like, I need a whole new podcast or different whatever."
Yeah.
But sometimes you can just kind of evolve and take your audience along with you. without having to
Yeah.
start over.
Yeah, and I think that's, like, if you, like, read our emails or listen to our podcast, like, we're a very, like, behind the scenes type of, company. Like, I'll share with you, like, "Hey, here's what happened on our last launch," and, like, "Here's what's happening when my girls are at school," or how I structure my day. And so I was like, "Oh, I should just, like, burn it all to the ground," because that's, like, all of us have those moments.
Mhm.
And then I was like, "No, I'm just gonna pause." And so over the summer, we actually just played, I almost said reruns, which is gonna date me, replays. We replayed, podcast episodes, which gave me, like, a little bit of space, and then in August, we came back and we did, like, a new intro and a new cover, and I did an episode where I shared a little bit behind the scenes of, like, what was changing and what we've done and sort of, like, how we've grown as a company, and so I sort of just, like, took everyone with me. And then we did, like, a fun post on Instagram where we shared, like, some of our new colors and our new logo, but it wasn't this, like, I was joking before we hit record that, like, Taylor Swift, launches her new album and then everyone's favorite color is orange. Like, it wasn't that kind of
Mhm.
moment. It was very subtle. And I was like, "Well, maybe I should have done it different." But it felt very aligned and just, like, simple. Like, I didn't want it to be this, like, huge undertaking.
Yeah. I'm very much like you. I have rebranded a few times, and the some of them have been very subtle. My last one was very drastic, and so I didn't do even as a designer, I didn't do, like, a post that was like, "Yay, look at my new website and
Yeah.
my new colors and everything." It was just kind of like, I put out the new messaging, and that was kind of the focus, and obviously some
Yeah.
people noticed the new colors that were in those graphics, but I didn't, like, clear my Instagram feed like Taylor
Yeah.
Swift might.
Right.
I just was like, Here you go." Like, "Ta-da." But even, like, when I've done, like, subtle shifts or new logos in the past, I never announced it. I just was like,
Yeah.
"There's a new logo on the website, but, like, nothing else is changing." So, I'm not gonna.
Mean, I love logos and, like, I'm a manifesting generator, so I like things to change and I like
Mm,
it to be, like, quick. But I feel like the logos and the colors, like, give me energy. Like, it
mhm.
gets me excited, and then I feel like that pours into the messaging, and I feel like the messaging is what people probably notice maybe a little bit more.
Yes. Mhm. Yeah, I agree,
So,
I
yeah.
agree. The colors are the kind of the fun parts. Not that the
Yeah.
messaging isn't also fun to, like, "Oh, man, like, this sounds so good and, like, this feels more aligned," but choosing colors and, like, incorporating new colors, I know for a lot of
Yeah.
people is that's the fun part.
Yeah, and we like so I like our brand colors, and we just added 2. So we added, like, a maroon color, which is supposed to be, like, a little bit more confident and, like, grown up, kind
Mhm.
of, and then we added, like, a citrine, which is, like, a super bright, like, neon yellow, and we don't use it very much, it's more of, like, an accent color, but when I started, like, using it, like, some of our, like, clients and, like, super fans were like, "Oh, I see a change, like, what's happening?" And so it was kinda fun to see people's reactions, but I think the messaging probably stuck a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah. So we kinda talked about the old and the new messaging. I'm curious if there was any parts of the old messaging or offers that did still feel aligned, or you're like, "No, we're totally kind of ditching this part."
Yeah.
And I know you also kind of mentioned to me that you also changed how you teach a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you wanna expand on that as well.
Yeah, so the rebranding and the colors actually came from us redoing one of our offers. So we have an offer called Antisocial School, and it's all about scaling without being on social media. And it's something that I have taught live for the last 3 years. We've launched it like 8 times, and you kind of just get to a point where you're like, okay, like it it's great, and I love it, but I can't just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and so I was like, "Okay, how do we, like, make this better?" And so in March, I was like, "I'm gonna teach it live for the last time. I don't know what's gonna come out of it, but whatever it is gonna be, like, the new version of it." And so we redid the whole program, like, re-recorded it. We added, like, AI bots and really made it this, like, really cool interactive course and experience, so you also get time with me, and that's where the messaging came from, because I was able to, like, ask questions and like summarize what people were saying and the feedback they were giving to me and like thinking about, okay, like in office hours, like what are their questions about? And how does that relate to like what we want to be known for? And so antisocial school is our signature offer, and so I kind of used all of that feedback to lean into, well, people wanna be off social media because they wanna go do other things, and so that's kind of where that, like, life priorities piece came from, and then we sort of went down this, like, Elle Woods goes to Harvard vibes, which is where the maroon came from, which was fun, and so we actually started with, like, those logos of, like, "Okay, let's just redo the course and give it, like, a refresh," and then we, like, took the energy from that and said, "Okay, how do we just, like, update our Crush the Rush logo to make it, like, a little bit more modern and just to make it match sort of where we're at?" So, it really came from teaching live and sort of gathering, feedback. The other thing that we did is we were building, like, a behind the scenes funnel for it, and we did, like, voice of customer interviews, and so I was really able to, like, lean into, like, the words that they were using and, like, how they were talking about us, and so that's where a lot of our wording and I think even, like, our energy came from.
Mhm. I love voice of customer interviews.
Mhm.
I think they are so, so interesting and, like, fun, and it's just it also makes copy easier. How many did
Yeah.
you do?
My copywriter did them, and we did 10, I think. But we've also taught Antisocial School Live for a couple of years, and we have, like, at the end of the course, we do, like, interviews and testimonials, so we had all of that, plus we had the updated, like, live interviews, and it was like a wealth of information that really just helped us focus on, "Okay, this is what people wanna hear right now."
Yeah, yeah, I think 10 is a good number because if you only do 3, then that's not enough, and
Yeah.
then if you do, like,
Yeah.
30, then that's way too many. But
You don't want it to be skewed, right? Like, I mean,
right.
hopefully you have super fans, but there's always
Yeah.
some good feedback in them.
Yes, yes, I love that. What was the biggest challenge for you or your team, like, while you were kind of making all these shifts and changes to your positioning?
Well, I think one is just time. Like I want it to be done fast and I just don't think it's something you can do fast. It took us so we launched Antisocial School in March and then we taught it live as we were going through all these and then built the funnel like for our evergreen model after that while we did the branding and like we just finished it and it's August. So it took a minute, which I just like things to be done. And so it was hard for me to just be like, "What is happening?" But I knew we were doing it the right way. So probably that and then you know, I this probably happens when everyone like updates their website, but it is just like opening a can of worms. And so it's like oh my gosh, like, now this needs updated, and now this needs updated, and so I had to really lean into looking at the data, like, we actually went into Google Analytics, and I was like, "Okay, what are, like, the top 3 pages that the most people view?" Because the other ones, like, probably don't matter, and they're not gonna notice that some font is different or whatever it is. Um so those were probably the biggest ones. I mean, I still am like, "Oh my gosh, we need this page fixed, and this isn't the same," but it takes a minute, like, it just takes time.
That is a genius approach. As someone who updates websites, that
Yeah,
is so, so smart. Like, I have done, those kind of tweaks for clients before where it's either, like, a new color theme
yeah,
or, like, we're making tweaking some fonts or whatever, and while we typically like, I will eventually get to all the pages, but it's like, "Okay, if we wanna kind of announce this or launch it or, like, whatever, like, let's focus on these 3 or 4 or however many, like,
yeah.
just today or, like, this week." And so I'm really glad you shared that because I know there
It's
are others out
hard,
it
yeah,
is, like and it is definitely one of those things where you're like, "Oh, I have to update all my Canva templates and my" if you have, like, an email header or,
yeah,
email signature and then all the website stuff and client docs and Dubsado
yeah,
customization, like, there's just the list is never ending.
yeah, I mean, we haven't updated client docs, like, we haven't done any of that, and I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to just do, like, a The old logos are still fine. So,
Yeah.
like, it's not that they don't match, like, I didn't wanna do this full, "Oh my gosh, it's totally different." So, like, if it's there, it's fine, but
Yeah.
if it's the new version, then that's fine too. The other thing that we did is we, trademarked a lot of things, and
Mm.
so we've been trying to go back in and add in the trademark symbol, and that's taken a minute too,
Yes.
so
There's always just more to add to the list, but
yeah.
it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't like you said, they're not probably gonna notice, and if they do, yours isn't a drastic difference where it's like, "Oh, look, this logo is from 1990, and
Yeah,
this logo
yeah.
is from 2025." So, yeah, I get it. How has the shift in the positioning impacted your business?
Yeah, well, most of the summer, I actually took off, which I think plays into the whole model that we're trying to prove is like, "Hey, you can have a business, but you can also, like, take time off." So,
Mhm,
that's not necessarily monetary, but to be able to, like, launch a program and do a rebrand and update your podcast and take most of the summer off, like, that felt like, "Okay, I'm, like, practicing what I preach a little bit."
mhm,
Um, and then we just launched our brand new, antisocial school, and the statistics are pretty good so far. Like, our funnel is a lot shorter and the wording is more direct, and knock on wood, it's converted. So, we'll see. Like, we don't have big numbers yet, but it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, and I think I'm hoping that it's because we took our time with it and we're super intentional with, like, how we did things and really stayed close to the words that sort of represented us the most.
yeah. Do you feel like you've noticed a difference in yourself, like, when you're talking either on your podcast or Instagram stories with the new positioning? Because I felt like when I
Yeah,
shifted mine, I was like, "This feels easier and more
yeah.
fun and more aligned, and I wish I'd done this, like, 5 years ago."
Yeah, well, just yesterday, I actually did a podcast on how we used our business to pay for Hawaii, and I would have never done that in the past because 'cause I'm like, "Well, who's gonna care about that? That's not strategy, it's not like" but it kind of is, and it just I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is, like, so much more fun to talk about." Like, who doesn't wanna plan, like, a trip based on, how they, you know, profit from their business, and so the content piece has come much easier for me instead of, like, trying to be so serious all the time, um, and just being, like, way more personal, which
Mhm.
has actually been more fun for me. Like, I kinda just, like, let my guard down a little bit more.
Yeah, and I feel like there's been a big shift in the online space with people wanting more of that personal vibe, like,
Yeah.
yes, like, I wanna know that you know what you're doing, but
Yeah.
with AI and just so many people out there, there's a lot, I feel, of, like, I wanna make sure that we connect, that we align
Yeah.
on values and personality and those kinds of things, and so I think leaning into this personal aspect is it's more fun, and it just makes it easier for you to connect with your audience.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is we spent so much time, like, building our brand book of, like, what we say, what we don't say, like, what are our words, that it's actually made the AI piece, like, even more
Mm,
efficient because we've,
mhm,
like as I built the program, I, like, built this library of information, and so now, like, just how I use it is so much different, but it doesn't sound like a robot, like, it's very much my words and
mhm.
things that I've said, which is nice.
Yes, I really love when people like, when clients come to me and they have kind of some of that. I don't think any of mine have had, like, a brand book, but they will make a note of, like, "Hey, I always say" whatever it is, and, like,
Yeah,
"I really hate this phrase in my industry, so, like, do not
yeah,
use it." Because it helps with the copy and the messaging, but also, the design as well, and I just love when people know themselves and know their brand so well that they have those
yeah.
kind of guidelines for just even, like, little phrases that they say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been really helpful, really
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. So the last question is, what advice would you give to someone who's listening and is like, "Oh, I kind of feel like I need to do a little baby rebrand or reposition myself." What advice do you have?
Yeah. I mean, as somebody who loves Canva and colors and logos, like I immediately want to jump to that and I just want to do that. And I think what helped us the most was doing the research at the beginning of like slowing down to speed up. And I say this all the time, but it's like, ask a couple people of like what they think of you and your business and the words that they use and ask your clients and take the time to do that because that information will help you so much in figuring out the rest. Um, and I don't know. I don't know if everyone will agree, but I think the baby rebrands are like a good stepping stone unless you're ready to like just do something completely different because I always say like most people probably didn't notice that we have a new yellow in our branding. I mean, I was excited about it, but most people probably didn't care. But it's like the little things that you can use to create momentum and create the energy and I feel like that was another benefit of doing it how we did it.
Yeah. Okay, this is I said it was last question, but now I have one more I have a follow-up question, and it is gonna put you
Yeah,
on the spot, so if
that's
you don't
okay.
remember, it's okay. But when you like you mentioned, ask what people, like, think of when they think of you and your brand, was there anything that was either, like, really surprising that people said or that I don't know, that, like, you heard and you're like, "Oh my gosh, like, that makes me wanna, like, cry," like, in a good way that, like,
Yeah, I
people
mean, when you ask for feedback, you're asking for the good and the bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
luckily it wasn't bad feedback, but I mean, I always say that because like, you have to be prepared.
Yeah,
Um I think the thing that surprised me most is I kept thinking, like, at least, like, in our programs and how we present things, that people wanted more, and I think what they wanted was, like, the best next step. So, like, what came out of those interviews, and this isn't necessarily, like, branding related, was like well, it could be like a brand promise. So we call it a heart promise, and it's like when you join our programs, like, this is our heart promise, and so we came up with like a 24-hour promise of like, hey, when you join this program in 24 hours, like our goal is to give you your 90-day strategy. And like we created a bot and all the things to help you do it. And then in 6 weeks, like here's our promise. And so I think what came out of it was very clear direction on what people were asking for, like if they were confused or they didn't know where to find things. And so I think that helped us like internally position things to help people get better results.
yeah, yeah, I like that. That's more people need to, like, have that type of focus in their
Mhm.
programs. I love that y'all do that.
Yeah, the
Well
24-hour one, my copywriter's like, "You wanna do what?" I was like, "Yeah, like, let's, like, get him a win in 24 hours, like, how do we do that?"
I'm sure that some people were like, are you sure about this?"
Yeah.
But I love that. Well, where can we connect with you, check out your programs, and all that kind of fun stuff?
Yeah, so you can go to hollymariehaynes.com and you can see our new logo and little pieces of our new colors. And if you wanna check out Antisocial School, which I talked about, we have a new workshop that came out. You can see the funnel and the messaging. It's just hollymariehaynes.com/workshop.
Awesome. I will link that in the show notes so you guys can go check that out and connect with Holly. But thank you again so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Are you a squiggle or a square? Go to justcreatives.com/quiz to find out where your brand ends up and find out what a square or squiggle even means. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to leave a review or share it on Instagram and tune in next week for another episode.